Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the IIBA Johannesburg chapter career webinar. Today, we're joined by three speakers who are going to take us through their careers and how they got to where they are. And hopefully we can all pick up some tips and tricks on how to navigate our way and our pathway into this career as business analysts. I, as the host, my name is Badze Banguna, and I'll be your host for tonight. I'm just going to go through some quick house rules for tonight. As you're all joining the webinar, I'm sure you've noticed you're able to get accepted or allocated into the room, and that will happen as this continues, as the webinar continues. You'll also be able, there is a chat function in the call where you're able to go in and post your questions and answers that will be then addressed by either the speakers or anybody in the panel at the end of the presentations. Please be advised, the presentation will also be posted on YouTube for later reference, anybody who would like to access it. Our first speaker for tonight is Brandon. I'm just going to talk you through a little bit of his background. Brandon Saunders started his career at a management consulting company and has worked as a BA and a BA lead in the financial and nonprofit sectors. He then took a leap into the world of digital design, where he performed the role in user experience design and as a design lead on a number of projects. He then ventured into product ownership, where he's currently working for one of Africa's biggest sports betting platforms. Over to you, Brandon.
Thank you very much for that intro. Sure, have a lot to live up to there. I'm just trying to start my video. I think it says the host needs to enable it.
Just give us a second while we sort that out, Brandon.
Sure.
Apologies, please try again.
Okay, looks to be working. All right, can you guys all see the slide?
Looking
Yes,
good.
we can.
Okay, great stuff. Cool. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're surviving the cold this evening. I know it's certainly hitting me quite hard. So yes, I think grab a blanket, grab a hoodie, grab a cup of coffee. Most importantly, so you can stay awake through this presentation. Cool. So let's get into it. So if you have a look at this crudely drawn diagram over here, I started my career out as a BA, moved into lead BA. Then I took a bit of an unconventional turn into UX and design, and then found myself in a product ownership role, which I'm currently at the moment. So I guess just to give a bit of context into this presentation, I think that first question there of where do you see yourself in 5 years? I know I absolutely hate being asked this question. And if you're anything like me, I'm a very poor planner. I don't even know what I'm having for supper after this, to be honest. And I think if you look at our world, it's changing so fast. You know, there's new industries, there's new competencies, new tech, new pandemics, ways of working. I think it's impossible to answer that question. And I think what I want to chat to you guys about is throughout my various moves, what key skills and what key takeaways have I taken from those roles, and how they've actually helped me from to transition from role to role. And then getting exposure to different competencies. I think this is extremely important no matter what role you're in. And I'll talk a bit about how I actually seeked out that exposure and how that actually helped me as well. And then talking about the actual concept of changing a job and role, I think it's quite a frightening thought. And that's quite natural as humans. So I'll talk a bit about some of the dilemmas I faced and how I actually came to some of those decisions. Okay, so a little bit about me. Born and bred in Cape Town, grew up there, went to school there. Huge sports lover. Unfortunately, I am a Manchester United fan, so the less said that about that, the better. Big into my cricket, bit of gaming as well. Like also Africans, love a good braai, love spending time with my friends, love good food and the odd good beverage as well. And I'm also a big fan and lover of nature and outdoors. So that's a very quick, brief summary of me in one slide. Just to kind of give you a bit more context as to where I am. So I mentioned I'm a product owner. I'm currently working at Betway. Obviously, as you can see, quite aligns to my sporting interest. So that's kind of where I am at the moment. So let's get straight into it. So I think where it all began for me, I studied a BCom honors in information systems. And I think BA was kind of quite a natural role to take up there. And probably one of the biggest decisions that I've made in my life was packing up, moving from Cape Town and actually coming to Joburg. I didn't know anyone here. And I think like a theme that you'll see is moving out of my comfort zone. And, you know, I always, you know, I was kind of living in a bubble. You kind of grow up with the same people, same mindsets, and I thought I just needed to grow and just change things up a bit. And the first project I went on was at ABSA. I'm sure there's a lot of you who've had some exposure at ABSA or still work there. And I think the first 2 years were really just trying to figure out what on earth a BA does. And I won't go into too much detail, mostly because my memory doesn't go that far back anymore. But I remember one thing my manager on the first day told me that stuck with me. And it was being a good BA is all about your networks. And, you know, you kind of think, you know, that sounds pretty obvious. But it really is so important, whatever role you're playing, whether it's BA, whether it's anything else, you're working with people. You need to get information from people. You need to communicate with people. You need to persuade people. And if you don't maintain your networks, you don't build your networks, you burn bridges, you're not going to be able to do that. And I think just like key takeaways from my first years, hence the chameleon picture there, is being adaptable. As a consultant, I think that was kind of encouraged. And what I mean by this is basically just throw yourself into anything. You know, even if it's not necessarily your role, get stuck in, add value where you can. Don't be scared to try new things. And I think that's one of the key skills that's helped me to where I am today. I think just on the soft skills side, I mean, you're just trying to figure out the lay of the land. You know, this big corporate world, what is software development? You learn one thing in varsity and it's completely thrown on its head, you know, as soon as you walk in the door. Learning from others, and you'll see this is a theme on all of the roles. Extremely important. From when I started to where I am now, you have to seek out people that you can learn from. I was lucky enough to have a mentor working on my project. But even if you don't, it's about identifying people you look up to. It's about identifying, you know, wow, this person is actually really good at their job. What are they actually doing? And I think it's, you know, of course, there's opportunities for a formal mentorship role, and you know, you can get assigned a mentor and things like that, and that's great. But I think just from showing a genuine interest in people, asking them questions, asking them from advice, you'll find a lot of the time that people are really forthcoming. And I think last but not least, I mean, any good BA has to have a solid grounding in their technical skills. So, you know, good requirements analysis, good, effective and relevant documentation, process analysis. On the, I guess, outside of BA, you've got your good understanding of your agile environments, your testing, etc. And I think that was really important because no matter what role you play on the project, if you look at the call it software development and product lifecycle, you've got to have knowledge of all of these different aspects. So yes, I think that was kind of my 2 years in a nutshell. And I think after that, I kind of said, you know what, I've been in the corporate space for a while, need something fresh, and I moved on to my next chapter. Okay, so I'm sure some of you might recognize this gorilla, rest in peace, Harambee. The next project I moved on was an NGO called Harambee, and like a very long and short of what they were trying to achieve is literally solving youth unemployment in South Africa. And you know, I was extremely lucky to land on this project. I don't think many people can kind of say, you know, they're literally waking up every day trying to make a difference. And I think for my role as a BA, I think the big change was moving from a corporate where, you know, you've got defined processes, you've got defined practices, etc., and really moving into a space where I could make it my own. So takeaways for me was, first of all, immersing myself in the business. As a BA, as any professional, you've got to understand the environment you're in. If you want to create solutions, you've got to understand the problem and you've got to understand the environment you're working in. And that means not just understanding the business, but the people in the business, talking to different people, building your networks. I mentioned it was, you know, kind of a startup vibe. All of these software development practices, they were non-existent. So as a BA, I really had the opportunity to actually build a lot of these things. Working with, you know, my development teams, you know, I managed to kind of find myself taking the lead and being proactive and driving some of these things. I managed the product backlogs. I managed and ran the Scrum ceremonies because, you know, we didn't have a Scrum Master for a long time. And I think the big thing for me was really, as I said, like having that exposure to different aspects, and being able to put together processes, being able to see the bigger picture. I mentioned the exposure to different competencies. I was lucky enough on that project, our team grew quite largely, and we had a lot of people from different areas, data experts. We had an entire testing team. We had agile coaches, and I really threw myself in there to try and understand and try and learn from all of these different people. One point, there's self-awareness. So, you know, obviously you start out and you kind of just getting the lay of the land. But I think as I got some more experience, I started understanding what makes me tick, what gets me out of bed in the morning, what kind of preferences do I have, what kind of people do I want to work with. And you'll see that that's quite an important aspect. If you're trying to assess whether you want to move into a new role, you've got to be aware of yourself and what your actual preferences are. So I'd spent, I think, 2.5 years on the project, and there was a bit of frustration that crept in, getting in a bit of a comfort zone. I felt like there wasn't a lot of opportunity for innovation. At times, I felt like I was just a bit of a scribe. You know, the decision had been made, and I've just got to put a spec together so the devs can start. And that didn't really sit well with me. And I think at the time on the project, and during that time, there was this buzzword UX and design and digital. And I think where I started getting a passion for this was when we were doing user acceptance testing sessions with the users of the system. We'd spend, you know, and I'm sure you guys have all been there, you spend 6 months to a year, whatever, building this amazing project. It's slick, it's amazing. And you put it in front of a customer and they honestly like, what the hell is this? They have no idea how to do this. And I kind of thought, you know what, that's actually unacceptable. At the end of the day, we're building products for people to use it. And I started speaking to a couple of people, you know, reading a bit. I did a couple of courses, and, you know, I decided I really want to get some more exposure into UX. So I kind of was at a bit of a crossroads because I think lucky enough at my company, they were actually developing a digital and UX competency, and I saw the opportunity to move. But there were obviously risks involved, and there were things like promotion. I'm starting at ground zero. I had a team of BAs that I was looking after at that time, and I wouldn't be able to manage them anymore. What if I have absolutely no clue what I'm doing, and I kind of get found out as a fraud? But I kind of thought, you know what, it's if it doesn't work out, I'm still at the company. I've got a decent reputation. I can always move back into business and others. So I made the jump, and that takes me into my move into UX. I went to Nedbank, and I very clearly recall on the first day walking into the planning session and thinking, wow, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I don't know if you've ever had nightmares about you find yourself back in high school and you have to like write your final exams. I literally felt like I was starting at day zero, and all my work, all my effort in BA had been to waste. But I stuck through it. I made the commitment, and yeah, I think some of the challenges, massive amount of learning in terms of new concepts, new jargon, technical skills. A big challenge at the time was UX design was a brand new discipline, so it wasn't really respected. To be very honest with you, there was a perception that designers just draw pretty pictures and that's it, and that really wasn't what the UX discipline and the value that it can bring was. One thing I will say is that we all got spanking new MacBook Pros with the screens on top of the keyboard, so that was a positive. I think how I overcame some of these challenges, I back myself. You've got to have confidence. Even if you venture into the unknown, you've got to back yourself and be confident. Once again, reaching out to your colleagues. I say venting because it's important that you do vent your frustrations. It's important that you speak to people about challenges. Reaching out to experts. Again, immersing myself in the business, understanding the requirements, building relationships with the stakeholders. And I think that's something from the BA space, and getting involved in dev, testing, obviously being a BA. I managed to gain the respect of those stakeholders, and in doing that, it actually helped me educate them around the value that UX does bring to the table. So once again, relationships, networks, absolutely crucial. I had to develop my technical skills. I think it's a bit naive to think you can just throw yourself into a new role. You've got to do your school fees. What I did, I think at the time, was I did a couple of online courses. I went to a couple of boot camps, and to be honest, that's not really a lot. But you've got to pay your school fees. You've got to understand the jargon. You've got to get a basic grounding so you can have some sort of credibility. And then lastly, you've got to understand the users. Luckily, they were based at the premises, and a lot of our time would be spent interviewing them, just sitting with them. How are they doing their jobs? How are they performing their tasks? So I think interesting there is, business analysis. You're understanding it with a lens of, I guess, from a business, whereas you're still looking at the same requirements, but you're getting more of the user's perspective, and specifically focusing on how they're going to perform their tasks on the system. So I think just naturally through my building relationships with my stakeholders, I managed to get to a point where I was convincing the team of the value we were bringing to the table. I got moved up into a design lead role. And ultimately what that was I was accountable for the best possible customer experience. And you'll see the image on the right, and I've mentioned the imposter syndrome. And what that is basically this feeling of you're a fraud. And I think it's so important, whatever role you're going to move into, if you make a change, you are going to feel like that. It's natural. But, as long as you are willing to learn, you put in the effort, you pay your school fees, eventually you do get over it. I think one of the big challenges and learnings there was the management skills. So because I was responsible for a team, I was accountable for an entire process and, delivery of that experience. It improved my management skills. So once again, I think you'll see a theme here that it's not just design specific, it's skills and generic skills that you can take to any role. I think just how to overcome some of those challenges, knowledge of putting together a process, once again, from my BA days, looking at the bigger picture, what makes things tick, what makes things work, how to tweak processes, building relationships, once again, understanding dependencies and constraints. Once again, I had a good understanding of the technical side. I had a good understanding of the business analysis side. I do see a couple of colleagues that I used to work with. So CK, Sonia and Yasin, I hope I'm not setting myself up for failure, but it was important that I understood other people's roles as well. And that helped me, not push my agenda, but kind of put in my processes in place that it didn't conflict with theirs as well. Negotiating and picking battles. So, there's a kind of joke that you, as designers, you're always fighting with the product owners, because product owners want to get delivery, they want to get things done, and designers want to do things right. And sometimes doing things right means a bit more time and a bit more effort. And one of the things I learned was you're not always going to agree, and it's not always about what I think is best. You've got to come to compromises, and you've got to pick your battles, and things that you're really passionate about, you've got to push, and other things you've got to understand the other person's point of view. So I think general kind of skills, once again, that put me in a good stead for my future roles. Okay, so I spent about 2 years in the design space, and once again, I started getting, did a bit of introspection, and I started getting this feeling of, you know what, I'm not feeling fulfilled here. And I think that self-awareness and introspection is absolutely crucial. If you don't actually take time to think what you're looking for and what makes you tick, you're never going to actually feel fulfilled and happy. You're going to be going through the motions. You're going to be driving to work the same day, hoping for the day to end. And it's important that you actually be specific around what you actually want. So, I've listed some examples. That was just kind of where my head was at the time. And I realized I needed a bit of a change. I'd always wanted to go into product ownership. I'd got some exposure previously when I was a lead BA. I was kind of a proxy product owner at one point. And I really enjoyed that thing of, it's almost like managing your own business. You've got this backlog, you've got these features, you can be creative, you can suggest new ideas. And that really got me excited. I think a frustration within the design space was, I was only getting exposure or focusing on one side of things. I was missing the tech side. I was missing the analysis side. So I kind of wanted to bring everything together. And for me, product ownership was the answer to that. So I explored the market, and I think it's important to get your feelings out. I didn't obviously tell my company at the time, but it's important to try interviews, sharpen those skills, get a sense of what's out in the market. Okay, so I was kind of exploring the market, and COVID happened, and the world stopped. And the last thing you think about is changing jobs. But randomly one day, I got a call, and I legitimately thought it was a prank call. And this guy was like, "We've got a product owner opportunity." And as he talked more, I was like, wow, like it's almost like exactly what I want. It's in the sports environment. Funny enough, I'd placed a bet on the Springboks to win the World Cup a couple of weeks before that on Betway. And it just kind of, you can see that I've got like a meant to be, and it's weird. I'm not a spiritual person, but sometimes things just fall into place. And it's because I was aware of what I want, and I did that introspection, that I was able to kind of be open and explore this opportunity. Obviously, it was a massive decision. I had to weigh up the pros and cons, leaving a job security during COVID. I have no idea what the environment's going to be about. It was an extremely scary time. What if I'm a fraud? What if I have no idea how to be a product owner? Betting, is that ethical? There's a lot of decisions. But I think what I had to do at the end of the day was I had to remove emotion from it, look at the pros and cons, but at the same time, trust my gut. you know, it's a product owner position in a sports environment. You know, it's my dream job, and I decided to take the plunge. You know, I spoke to people close to me. For example, my mom and my dad were like, what on earth are you doing? Do not take this. But once again, you've got to weigh up different opinions as well. And I decided to go for it. And that was an entry into product ownership. Starting in COVID was crazy. I think it took me 3 months to actually meet my team. The learning curve was absolutely ridiculous. I thought I was used to walking into projects and kind of starting from day one. Literally took me 3 months to add any type of value. And I think, you know, like in terms of the skills and the big shift that I had was being accountable. In other roles, you can kind of not point fingers, but say, you know, this isn't my responsibility. Oh, you know what? That's not, that's someone else's job. As the product owner, I am accountable. The buck stops with me. So if I see things aren't working, if something's going wrong, it's my job to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I think that's kind of where my learning and where my focus is on now, is that leadership and management focus. How do I look at the bigger picture? How do I pull strings? How do I get the most out of teams? And then just to kind of look back on the skills that I've learned from a BA point of view, I look after a team of BAs now. We've got to interrogate requirements. Is it the best thing for the business? From a testing point of view, I've got to make sure that our testing is happening efficiently. We're prioritizing, we're testing the right things, we're testing the right platforms. Agile and Scrum, we didn't have a Scrum Master for 6 months. I had to use my knowledge of best practices in that space. UX design, we work on, our business is 100% digital. It's 100% online. I also, I've got a team, a front-end team that I manage, and from my experience in UX design, managed to get my team to kind of think and apply all of these UX design principles. So it kind of seems a bit crazy, but every single role that I've played has actually rolled up and is extremely useful and relevant in my product owner role. So just a few closing words. You would have seen the themes. Always build good relationships, never burn bridges, seek advice from other people, get exposure, dip your feet in the water. You know, it's, especially if you are considering a move, you have to get a taste of it, speak to people, get stuck in, get out of your comfort zone. Always be curious, never stop learning. And I think, I mean, that's kind of an obvious thing. I think just general in terms of thinking about a move, you've got to do that self-introspection. You've got to be aware of what you're looking for and what gets you out of bed in the morning. You've got to assess the risk, and you've got to be bold. You've got to be brave. You know, change is scary, but you've got to look at the benefit and the opportunity. And I think lastly, you know, you'll see this quote here. If somebody offers you an amazing opportunity, but you are not sure you can do it, say yes, then learn how to do it later. You know, I'm not saying now decide to become a pilot, but it's so important. You can learn how to do it with the right skills and the right attitude. All right, that is pretty much the end of it. I think last disclaimer, do not quit your job. Do not use me as a reference for quitting your job. And yes, I hope you guys took something away of it. And yeah, I hope you have a good evening and good luck to all the rest of the presenters.
Some useful tips there, Brandon. Thank you so much. You have given some very useful insights, and I'm sure the attendees will find them very useful.
All right.
Next. Am I hearing something? Am I being notified of anything?
No, I'm waiting for your cue, whatever.
Okay, thank you. So our next speaker tonight is Nyasha. I'm just having technical difficulties. Please give me 2 seconds. Yasha is a mom of two boys, originally from Zimbabwe and based in South Africa since 2007. Currently, she is designated as a head of BI integration and is responsible for enabling change in an enterprise by defining needs and recommending solutions that deliver value to stakeholders. She manages multiple assets through the development, implementation, review of strategies, and planning, and comes with 17 years of multifunctional business experience within different industries, including banking, airline, telecoms, consulting, and the automotive industry. Over to you, Nyasha.
Thanks, Batseba. I'll start sharing my presentation. Okay. All right. I'm just trying to go into the presentation mode here. Okay. All right. So good evening, everyone. I think Batseba has already given a brief intro in terms of who I am, but I've also just included there in terms of who I am. I've also been a volunteer with the SA chapter of IRBA, and I was fortunate enough to be a presenter at the BA Summit in 2019, and I was also a track chair in that same year. As a mom, I also enjoy hiking, reading, and I believe I'm an authentic and positive-minded individual. I'll go into a little bit about my educational background. I did a degree in Bachelor of Science, Computer Science and Statistics, and my career has been primarily in the technology space. I also completed my Master's in Business Administration at the University of Witwatersrand in 2018. In my career, I have acquired several certifications. I'm currently a certified business analysis professional, product owner, and safe agilist. And there are more details on my LinkedIn profile. The experience Batseba has already mentioned, but what I would like to highlight is I'm also a firm believer in terms of the value we bring to our stakeholder community. So although I am able to enable change in an organization, I am responsible for planning, developing, implementing, and also reviewing any technology solutions that we implement for a business area. So that's all about me in a nutshell. I'll move on for the sake of time. Okay, so I'll just go into a summary of the roles that I've had in my career. I graduated in 2005, and I did a management trainee program after that. And then when I completed it, I was a system administrator at Econet. And my first stint in analysis was in 2007 as a data technical analyst. So I started in the back end side of things. I worked with databases, writing queries, designing databases, essentially pulling extracts for marketing campaigns. I then moved into business intelligence, and there I designed models and frameworks and reports for product owners. And this is where the process of eliciting requirements from business stakeholders started for me. In my previous role, I was basically told the rules, but in this position, I started then asking a few more questions. And this is where I started getting my first experience in mentorship. My then team leader suggested that because of the work that I did, she thought it would be a good idea to enter into business analysis. And she also suggested that I even go into maybe in a formal qualification. And that's when I started looking into courses at FTI, which I eventually did a diploma in business analysis at FTI. So I did a few more consulting roles, basically necessitated by the fact that I relocated from Cape Town to Johannesburg. And then I started consulting. So these were more contractor roles. that I failed, and I was still doing analysis, and I was also studying and getting more knowledge about the field of business analysis as a whole. And then I moved on to be a senior business analyst in 2014, where I got to start doing business cases. I started doing positioning papers, do more research. So I moved on into a more strategic business analysis role at ComAir, because I started now influencing strategic decisions by executives with the work that I started doing there. I was also part of the Discovery Bank project, because we were their Flight Rewards partner with Discovery Bank. So it was a huge project, multiple teams at Discovery Bank, but I was the lead from ComAir perspective. So that role really gave me extensive experience in the field of business analysis up until 2019, where I joined Nedbank as a business analysis specialist. And because I had completed my MBA at this point in time, and I was also volunteering in the IBA, I started getting mentorship into possibly doing more managerial work and the leadership role. That's where I started looking into applying for management positions, and I became a senior development manager in 2019. And that role essentially gave me exposure to different countries, executives, COOs, CIOs, and I think that role, that's where I really started getting more into a leadership type of role. And I've assumed the business integration head role since the beginning of last month. This is where I am to date. So that's just a summary in terms of my navigation of my career and the progress I've made since. And I'll move on to the skills that I've acquired in the process. I think as a business analyst, it's inherent that you will become a good problem solver, because essentially, business has needs. You have to understand what is driving the project or initiative you're working on, what you're solving, and designing solutions, testing solutions. You are always presented with opportunities to solve problems. Stakeholder management, it could be a project manager, it could be a sponsor. That is very key as a business analyst. And also it's important to be able to analyze a set of data and present it in a way that makes sense and gives insights to the executives in terms of decision-making. And I went into what do you need to do as in terms of your approach. When you're a business analyst, you need to be able to operate at different levels. You need to understand strategically, what does this mean for the organization if we implement the solution? You need to be able to have systems thinking, competencies, critical thinking, be creative as well. When you're brainstorming, coming up with design options, for example, it's an opportunity to test your creativity there. And for me, when I started moving into the senior development role, I became accountable for project execution and delivery in essentially on-time performance. So if we were tracking late on any projects or commitments that we had made, I was now accountable at the strategic level in the organization. I would have to be able to make technical decisions in terms of, can we get some quick wins? What can we do in the interim? And really understand operationally, how is this impacting the business? So as a business analyst, there are 3 levels that you operate at: strategic, tactical, and operational. And I've had exposure in my career on those elements. As a development manager, I also had to be able to design strategic
Looks like we've lost Nyasha. There's a delay. Nyasha? Let's just give her a few minutes. It seems Nyasha is having network issues, and we're going to try and see if she can jump back on. I think Nyasha will be jumping back on. Apologies for that. It seems she's been having network issues suddenly. Nyasha, you let us know when you're back. I'm not certain what's happening there, but I think we will then move on to our next speaker and see if we do get Nyasha back on. Our next speaker . While we share the speaker's profile.
Hello? Sorry, my connection dropped. Yeah, I don't know if I can continue or if you guys have moved on.
No, not yet, Nyasha, if you are able to continue.
Because you need to understand your stakeholder community because you will engage at different levels. It's not just the dev teams you will be able to communicate with or product owners. One day you might be asked to present before executives, COOs, or whoever. So be someone who is up for the challenge. When the opportunity presents itself, raise your hand and build trust and establish rapport with anyone who you meet, anyone who engage. Those relationships will help you in your career development. And also, when you go to a new company, understand what form of communication works for those stakeholders. So email might not be the best to create rapport when you are new. So maybe give people a phone call. If there's opportunity to have a face-to-face interaction, then take it up, because it's important for people to put you into context. Oh, I know Nyasha. So when you are now working on a project, they have that element, or I can trust this person because we've worked with them before, or I know them, rather than just, oh, there are my requirements on Jira and you're somewhere hiding behind the computer. This is now also a bit of a challenge in the virtual environment, but if you can understand what works best in any situation or environment you're in. I'm going to move on to the last two slides, if I can. Okay, so I mentioned mentoring before, and I actually had an opportunity to be part of the IBA mentoring program when it was established in 2018. And that program helped me a lot because at that point I was a senior business analyst and I wanted to move into more management type of work. And through designing my goals and action plan, my mentor was able to guide me how to prepare for interviews, what type of goals or roles should I apply for. So in essence, some of the competencies we have as business analysts are hidden in the titles. So you can look at a title and think, oh, but I'm just a business analyst. But actually, as a business analyst, end-to-end delivery of any project, you gain a lot of experience. So when you're also looking to move, understand what you already know, because there's a possibility that you're able to design, you are able to architect, to manage products. So because of your exposure. So look at that as well. But for me, I think having a mentor also helped me. Although it was my first formal mentorship experience, throughout my career, I've always listened to people I've worked with, my team leader, my managers, when they gave me feedback, even in performance reviews. If there was a development area, that's also an indication of something that you can work on. Yeah, so that's what how mentorship has helped my career. I'm going to move on. And then in terms of networking, through just participating in volunteering work with the IIBA SA chapter, I've managed to have so many professional links. Some of them are on this course. We've worked together on the summit or creating different programs. And I've had platforms to engage international speakers. So this is a very good platform for anyone who's looking to pursue their career and grow it. The professional links you gain through this interaction alone is immense, it's invaluable. So take advantage of it when it's presented, and opportunities to participate are presented. Please do raise your hand. And my last two slides will just, this is just a picture that really just says what I've reiterated, what I've said, that as a business analyst, you have so many options in terms of career development. You can look at becoming, if you're more business focused, you can go into product management, you can become a Scrum Master, a portfolio manager. If you look on the right side of the slide, there are so many opportunities, design options there, project management, architecture work, and also on the tech side, if you're someone who prefers being more technical, you can focus on the more data science type work or business intelligence analysis, machine learning, cloud, cybersecurity. So if you want, or you feel stagnated as a business analyst, there are many options available. This is an article for Modern Analyst. I've pinned the link on the slide so you can take a look. And one other thing that I benefited by being part of IIBA is I learned about, accessing these resources like Modern Analyst. There are so many platforms out there that you can learn about business analysis and what it means and how you can grow and develop from where you are today. Lastly, I'll pause on end my presentation on this slide. This is something I learned in mentorship as well, because basically you need to identify your goal. So say, for example, you decide you want to go into architecture as an example, identify that as a goal, and then evaluate where you are, what you lack, what you need. If you need to go on a formal course, then identify which courses are out there. If there's opportunities to interact with architects in your workplace, reach out, set up meetings with them, understand if they have some training programs or projects that you can shadow them on. And it's really just to say that your career is in your hands. So if you want to grow from where you are, identify someone who aspires you. It could even be a senior business analyst or a product owner, and make sure you ask the right questions and be present. If you're in a room and you aspire to be like a product owner that you're working with, then ask them, how do I get into this role? How do I become an architect? How do I become a manager? Or how do I enter into this design field? Ask the questions and create a plan, an action plan. It's important to time it as well. I always like to give my goals with the timeline. So if I say I want to write a certification exam, I'll give myself time to write it and say by the end of 2022, I want to aspire, and ask. This community is always there to help. How do I get certified, for example? It's so easy. And just engaging with this community, I have seen so many people ask, how do I get certified? And they've managed to do that from the help they've gotten from this community. So that is my last 2 cents. I've run out of time and enjoy the rest of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Nyasha. Despite challenges with connection, we've gotten so much out of your talk. You've managed to capture the journey from entry level all the way to leadership roles and the importance in mentorship. So we've gotten a lot out of this in spite of the challenges that we had. Thank you. Our next speaker, her name is Mashaba. Mashaba is a seasoned business analyst with a wealth of experience, having worked in government and the banking sector. She's currently responsible for the mentoring and coaching portfolio in the IIBA South Africa chapter and served as secretary in the previous year. She's served on the national mentorship movement with IQ Business and was also nominated to be part of the Thought Leaders panel. Mashaba is currently authoring a book titled Your Customer's Heartbeat under the mentorship of the New York Times bestselling author Raymond Aron. So we will be looking out for this book, Mashaba. And she has also given a talk at the Business Analysis Summit 2019, hosted by the South African chapter IIBA. And with that, I welcome our last speaker for tonight, Mashaba. Over to you. You are speaking in mute, Mashaba.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Batseba. I just want to take this time to greet colleagues on the call. And without much waste of time, I'm just going to go into it because I quite realize that our time is sort of we're running out of time. So basically, what I'm going to be covering in our session today, I'll just give a brief background about mentorship, the objectives, the difference between mentoring and coaching, the IIBA SA focus for 2022, the high-level criteria, as well as what's in it for you, but not only what's in it for you, but it's what's in it for you, what's in it for you as a mentor, what's in it for you as a mentee, and what's in it for your organization where you're serving. And then I will be concluding my talk. So I'm going to be moving at the speed of a lightning because of time. So just to give a brief background, you would have noticed that Nyasha mentioned that she was part of the mentorship program that was launched in 2018. So it was launched, and it was under the leadership of our former president, Mr. Edward Ngubane, and the program paused due to some constraints, but we are relaunching again this year. And at the same time, in 2018, the global chapter did launch the initial pilot for mentorship, and it was in about 7 countries. I will go into them when I do the actual launch talk. But for interest sake, if there are people who are interested, I can just post the countries in the chat. Then there were some learnings that they learned there, and they then looked at the chapter was running the pilot itself with input from the chapters, and they looked at some of the challenges that were there, and they took some learnings and then they adapted it so that it can be chapter run. So the adapted version of mentorship was for IIBA. It was then piloted in 2 other countries. So the global chapter evolved. 2 beautiful ladies, Michelle Green and Jennifer, I forgot her surname, sorry. And Jennifer, they started putting together what they call Mentoring in a Box, which as IIBA South Africa, we are now part of it, and we're going to be relaunching, as I have mentioned, and we are going to be measured on that. So from an IIBA perspective, we are going, IIBA SA perspective, we are just going to be focusing on offering the support to eligible members in the area of business analysis through experience-based guidance. So as you can see, this is a member-only initiative. If you are not yet a member, I would encourage you to be a member so that you can be able to benefit from this program. I think Nyasha as well as Brandon, they did mention how mentoring played a role in them evolving in their careers. And then from an IIBA SA chapter perspective, we are just going to be also reporting on the progress that we are making on this relaunched program, where we are now having mentorship in a box, which we never used to have. Okay. In my journey, in my career, I found that there's a bit of confusion between coaching and mentoring. So I just put together some key things. There's a lot of differences if you go onto the web to just check the differences, but I just highlighted the ones that I felt that they were key. So in terms of the differences between the two, if you look at mentoring, it's an engagement where a mentor shares their knowledge, their skills and expertise with a mentee. And on the other hand, with the coaching, is an engagement where the coach guides the client to achieve a particular goal or maximize their full potential. So sometimes it might not even be a client. I mean, look, if we look at the sporting codes, all sporting codes, they've got coaches. And if you look at it, it's more about getting the team to like play it all out and get the necessary awards and so forth and so forth. Then mentorship, it often lasts for at least 3 months or more, but coaching, I mean, you can set up a coaching call for 15 minutes and you get your aha moment, and then you can run with whatever input or whatever insight that you have gotten. But it can also extend from 15 minutes to like weekly coachings to monthly coachings and so forth, depending on the contract between the coach and the client, or the coach and the sport player, or in our case, between the coach and the business analyst who opted for coaching as opposed to mentoring. Then mentoring again is development driven. So it's more about an individual developing themselves. It does not necessarily tie up to performance per se in terms of your day-to-day duties. But with coaching, in most cases, it's often performance driven, where if I'll give an example, if you feel that you are overweight and you want to lose some weight, obviously you will have to eat healthy, you'll have to like exercise and so forth and so forth. So in that instance, you will get a wellness coach who will make sure that the meal plan that they give you, the exercise, the type of exercises that they give you will be the exercises that help you to achieve that particular goal. So hence, I'm mentioning the difference between performance driven, because this one, it looks at a particular goal, and in most cases, once that goal is achieved, then the relationship dissolves. Then the mentoring process also involves the matching of mentors to mentees, which on the coaching side of things, it will be an individual deciding who their coach would be. It can be somebody, if somebody wants to be, if any of the BAs wants to be coached in our community, they might opt to choose for somebody who is not even part of our community to coach them. But with the mentorship, we always have the match happening in the formal process. And then in the mentoring relationship, again, in the mentorship engagement, the mentee drives the relationship. So it's up to the mentee to always show up. It's up to the mentee to like have an action plan to say, this is what I want to do. And, you know, use the mentor as a soundboard, as opposed to a mentor being the teacher or being being a teacher, let me just put it that way. And on the other side, on the other hand, coaching, it's more the coach who drives the relationship, who will set the rules to say, okay, this is how I'll be running this program. This is how often we're going to be meeting, and so forth and so forth. Whereas on the mentorship side of things, is up to the mentee to say, I am available on these days. I would be able to engage on these days. Of course, the mentor as well will also have to see and make sure that they are available at the time when the mentee said they are available. Okay, as I mentioned, to say from an IIBA SA chapter perspective, we are just only going to be focusing on mentoring. Coaching, it's something that we will see, I don't know, maybe next year or in some years to come. But at this point in time, we just want to start with mentoring and get the mentoring right. And then we can then start looking at coaching and get the necessary framework so that we don't engage into coaching and we infringe the global bodies framework. So in terms of high level process that we're going to be getting into from a mentoring perspective for 2022, our journey is going to be as follows. So we will be setting up a mentoring relaunch session. Look out for communication in this regard. And then we will look at recruiting the volunteer mentors. We will be searching as well for mentees, but we first need to have the mentors so that when we get the mentees, at least we have mentors that are already instituted in the program. Then we will do the mentor-mentee matching, and then we will do the mentorship contracting and execution. So there will be some contracts that will be there where the mentees and the mentors will agree to say, like, for how long is the engagement going to be? It's going to be a minimum of 3 months. And if after 3 months, both parties feel that they've achieved whatever that they were set to do in that relationship, they would be able to terminate that relationship. If they want to continue, they can also be able to proceed. But we are looking at having the 3 months engagements as well as 6 months engagements. If after 6 months there's also a need to continue, there will also be some contracting happening there. And then lastly, there's going to be continuous monitoring and evaluation. So in terms of global, the expectation is that we should be able to provide feedback every month in terms of how is the program going. So, but then we just need to, when we start to run this with whoever members will be part of the program, we just need to see how best we do it. It might not be formal, but sometimes it's always best if it's formal, because if you don't say certain things, if you don't formalize them, then it's not always feasible to measure them. So in terms of high level requirements from a global chapter perspective, the mentor or the mentee must be a fully paid member. So if you are not yet a member and you have questions about membership, I've put the membership email address down there. You can even visit our website. And then from a mentee perspective, whatever the mentee or the mentorship needs that you have, there must always be business analysis aligned. We are not in a position to offer something that is outside business analysis. And we also need to have, as an individual, we also need to have the capability and the availability to attend mentoring meetings. Okay, in terms of what's in it for the mentor, what's in it for mentee, and what's in it for the employee, I've just put this table to say, as a mentor, you will have the opportunity to develop others. You'll have the opportunity to share your knowledge and learn from mentees, having been part of the National Mentorship Program, as well as, I would say, not having a formal and structured mentorship thing that I had running as part of my career. I've learned a lot from the people that I have mentored, either formally and not formally. So there is a lot of learning that happens there, even as a mentor. And then your mentoring or your engagement in the IIBA mentorship program will be forming part of your contribution to the volunteerism aspect of certification. And then you will also be enhancing your personal profile. And again, it's an opportunity to expand your network. If you serve our mentees exceptionally, word of mouth is gonna go out there. We will get to a point where we have mentees recommending or asking for you as a mentor. So the more you do, you excel, the more you serve the community, the more you excel in what you do. That's where like people will start looking for you instead of you looking for people. Then from a self-mentee, from a mentee perspective, there's an opportunity for self-development and growth. There's knowledge share as well. In most cases, mentors, because they have wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience, they would be able to point you to the resources that you need if they don't have answers, because mentors don't always have answers. So they would be able to point you and guide you into the right direction. You can also leverage of their expertise and their wealth of knowledge that they have. And you will also gain confidence in executing your tasks based on your engagements that you're having with the mentee. you will have an enhanced BA. I'll call it BA Arsenal. I just wanted to move away from tool. I think because I've once worked in the correctional services and I got used to the term Arsenal. So as a BA, being part of the mentorship program, you will also be able to increase and enhance your business analysis arsenal. And you also have the opportunity to expand your network. If, for instance, you are engaging with a mentor and you need assistance in a particular area and they know somebody who is stronger than they are in that particular area, they can always refer you to that particular person. And in that way, your network expands. Then from an employer or a client perspective, because some of us are independent contractors, the employer will start to have the improved quality of your artifacts. Even the way that you are approaching your work is going to be different. Your ways of working will be improved. There will also be more value-adding insights that you as a BA will be imparting into the organization or the department or the divisional boards. Okay. In terms of some of the tips that have worked for me in my career, and they have worked for people that I have informally mentored, I've just realized that, you know, for one to continue or to if you are in a situation where you want to switch your career, you first need to understand what is it that really make you tick. If you don't know what makes you tick, then you will be able, like you will be open to anything. And as I think it was Brendan who mentioned to say that you must know what you want, you must be specific in terms of what you want out of life. Because if you don't know what you want out of life, anything will take you there. Then you also have to have genuine reasons why you need to switch careers. I encourage people to switch careers in terms of, or in alignment of what makes you tick. Because sometimes you find that someone is in a career where they got there because it was their parents' dream. Sometimes they got there because there was no money at home. That was the only option that they have to study that particular field. So do some soul searching, as Brendan mentioned. Do some soul searching, find the genuine reasons. Why do you really want to switch? Is it because the job itself is more routine? You need something that is challenging, something that is that you know you draw energy from things that are challenging. You're tired of routine, or is it the environment where you are? If it's the environment where you are, is it really worth changing the career as opposed to changing the environment? Is it the jargon that is there? Is it the people? So you just need to search and find genuine reasons why you need to, why you feel the need to switch and address your switch if you still want to switch. Sometimes you just want to switch because this is something that is not you, you know? And I would say if you are in a career that you feel it's not you, I would encourage you to then consider a switch and make sure that whatever career that you are switching to, it's congruent with who you are, because you can never run away from who you are. You will always remain you. You can change so many roles. You can change to be this and be that, but you find that there's a golden thread of who you really are. So I am encouraging people to say, if you are considering switching jobs or switching careers, make sure that you are switching it to something that you are congruent to who you are. Then the next item is know the skills required for business analysis. If you want to switch into business analysis or any other field you want to switch it into, look at those skills. I think Nyasha did mention that you need to also take stock of the skills that you have and that you can leverage off versus the needed skills, and then set yourself goals for upskilling yourself, and then do the actual switch. But I think I loved what Nyasha had. She had a nice process outlined here on her slide, but here I just put it as a one-liner. And then upskill yourself in the areas where you are lacking, find a mentor in the area where you're lacking, buddy with a knowledgeable BA wherever possible, maybe in your network or even in our community. Some of the things you need to do, some sacrifices. I remember there's a lady who was she was a project administrator at the time when I was still working for Nedbank, and she wanted to switch into process engineering. And you know, we used to sit after hours. I used to sit with her and like sort of teach her what is it that we do, what process engineering is about. And she had interest she took interest, and she made the switch from being a project administrator to being a process engineer. And since then, even today, she is not regretting those conversations, those sacrifices that we made after hours. So sometimes we need to go out of our comfort zone. We need to make some sacrifices to be able to get where we are, where we want to be. And then again, make your aspirations known to the leaders in your network. I think Nyasha did mention it as well as part of her volunteering activities that she got exposed to. The leaders, she got exposed to the people in the community, and they really helped her to navigate in her career. So make aspirations known to those leaders. Though sometimes I discourage people from making their aspirations known to their direct managers, because if you do that, sometimes you would be shooting yourself on the foot, unless if you have the type of relationship where you know you can trust, or you can trust them, where you know that they can support the switch that you are wanting to do. But most often than not, if you are a very good VA and you give them your aspirations that are contrary to how they see you and what they're going to be, the value that they're getting from you, it tends to make the relationship sour. So try not to burn your bridges, be tactful as and when you do this. Hey, if you had watched the video for our president, Ketelo, she did mention that this year we are thriving. So in the spirit of thriving, I just want to say to you that, you know, to thrive and to get to the next level, you need either a mentor or a coach or even both. So don't be comfortable in terms of where you are. Just always want to move to the next level. And the mentoring program is going to be starting soon. Please come and join us. We would love to serve you. And we would even love for mentors to serve the community. So look out for our mentoring flyer that is going to be coming soon. And if you have further questions or you would like to contact us for mentorship, that is the email address that I've put in there. And for membership, again, if you are not yet a member, just know you will not be eligible for partaking in this program, either as a mentor or as a mentee. So just if you're really, really keen to serve the community from a mentoring perspective, please sort out your membership and come and join us. That's me in a nutshell. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mashaba. I'm sure there'll be a lot of new members based on the compelling story you've told tonight around the IIBA mentorship and membership. Unfortunately or sadly, we are running out of time. So what we're going to ask all the attendees to do is please post your questions in the Q&A, and they will be attended to via email. So if you can post your questions and send an email, then you will get a response in your personal email, because we are not able to attend to the questions and answers tonight. And then also we would like to just inform you around the IABA member benefits, to mention a few, and access to the online library, a saving of up to 40% on the globally recognized professional certifications, as well as exclusive access to the global community of BAs, as well as, you know, the mentorship programs, which do seem to, based on history, really make a difference in the life of a BA in your career. So you're really encouraged to join and become a registered member of the IABA. Would also like to introduce the study groups that IABA is launching, and that is very helpful if you're preparing to write an IABA certification. And this will be on Saturday, the 11th of June, 2022. For more information, please contact membership@southafrica.iiba.org. And that leads us to the close of our session. Thank you everybody for attending. And as I did say previously, if you do have questions, please send us an email, and your questions will be answered. Please also be advised that the presentation will be uploaded on the IABA's South Africa YouTube page that will be found on https://www.youtube.com. user IABA SA. Unfortunately, we do not send out the presentation deck. To become a member of the IABA South Africa, please go to the link below that we've shared. If you can take down a note, and you can go to the link and join. And also please take note of our address, johannesburg@southafrica.iiba.org. Thank you very much for joining, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.